Hello, welcome to this new video. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 4 fields of dialogue, which is a tool that's essentially a map. It's a map for conversation. It's a tool that's inspired by the work of Otto Scharmer on the 4 fields of dialogue. It's a tool that's a map and that's going to help you situate the kind of conversation that you're finding yourself in. And in that way, it will help you ensure that you're having the right type of conversation. In other words, that you're having conversations that are embodying emerging futures. And if you look at the map, you can see that these are the 2 fields on the top of the map. So it's a map that can ensure that you're having conversations embodying emerging futures and not conversations that are repeating scenarios of the past. Okay, now the difference between the fields on the left and the fields on the right. On the left, these are conversations that are giving primacy to the whole, to wholeness. On the right, these are conversations that are giving primacy to the parts, to the individual experiences. 4 fields. The 2 bottom ones are talking nice and talking tough. These are 2 conversations that are repeating scenarios of the past. And if we look at the 2 fields on the top of the map, fields 3 and fields 4, there are fields that are embodying emerging futures. This is where you have possibilities to break away from scenarios of the past and indeed bring in some innovation, some breakthrough, some new ideas, new behavior, new solutions. Let's zoom in now a little bit on field number 1. Otto Scharmer calls it field talking nice. And why do we call it talking nice? This is a field where, in fact, your primary concern is that the group, everybody's happy, there's no conflict, we're all getting on well. So it's a field where you're going to watch out very carefully what you're saying. When I say very carefully, this can be conscious, of course, it might even be unconscious, but you know that there are things you mustn't talk about. There are topics, issues that are a no-go. Okay, so you're filtering a lot what you're saying. You're ensuring that you're really polite, you're self-censoring, and what you're doing as you're speaking, but also as you're listening to confirm the positive aspect of what the other one's saying. You're listening to confirm he or she's got very good will, is trying well, doing his best. You're avoiding to pick up any dissonance, any disagreement. Again, consciously and unconsciously, you're leaving these aside. You're just wanting to confirm that, everything is nice, everything's going well. A typical field 1 conversation is a family gathering. Once a year, you meet, everybody's there. You want to make sure there's no conflict. You want to make sure everybody will leave happy. It's all gone well. So you're going to filter a lot what you're saying. You're not going to talk about this or that. You're just going to stay on a very strict path of conversation. Might be very good. It won't be very productive. It won't be very generative. It's very unlikely that new breakthrough ideas, breakthrough behaviors happen in field 1. The other problem with field 1, and think about your own family parties, family gathering, one of the problems is that at some point somebody tends to break and they will bring in their own perspective. They will say, I've had enough of hearing this. Actually, I think we need to say, we need to acknowledge this, that person who's had enough will come in and want to share with you their truth. Yeah? They want to share their perspective as if it is the truth, as if their truth is the truth. And then we just enter into a debate, a conflict, because they will say, well, I think you need to hear this. Well, I think you're wrong. This is the truth and you just have to accept it. What you're saying is stupid. You're not taking this into consideration. So in field number 2, we're in debate, and debate is about beating each other up. That's the actual Latin root of debating. So it's about beating each other up with ideas, with perspectives, thinking that my truth is the truth. My primary concern is that I'm trying to get the other one to understand that they're wrong. And actually, I strongly believe when I'm stuck in field 2 that not only I'm right, not only what I'm saying is true, but if only the other one realized it, everything will be solved. We won't have this problem. So I'm going to spend all my energy trying to prove, to argue, to demonstrate, to convince, and I'm going to listen to what he's saying in order to respond, not to understand, just to respond. I'm going to try to pick up what's unclear in what he's saying, where are the contradictions, where is he speaking without the relevant data. I'm going to try to prove to him that his own discourse is false. That's where my energy goes. Okay, so what I'm actually expecting in field number 2, I'm expecting something from the other that I'm not prepared myself to do. I'm expecting the other to give up their own perspective, to rally to my perspective, but never am I prepared to do this because I'm so convinced that I hold the truth. Field number 2 is very sterile. At best what comes out of field number 2 is we agree to disagree and we move back to field number 1. Another thing that happens is, one idea may remain standing up after many beatings, but still having beaten the other ideas. And we might fool ourselves into thinking that because this idea remains standing up, everybody therefore agrees with it. Well, actually, nobody will then follow that idea. If you're trying to lead your team and you've done it from field number 2, they might end up saying yes to you, but actually they will not follow you. Field number 2 is a place where we often get stuck, and we need to get out of that if we want to find a breakthrough for collective understanding and therefore collective action. So the way to do it is to enter field number 3. We can do this using the tool that I present in another video on generative speaking, and in particular we can use quadrant number 4 when we talk about what it is that's crucial for me I'm not hearing you talk about, or quadrant number 3 when we talk about the feelings that are being triggered when I listen to you. Either way, communicating to the other that way from field number 3 is very different, because here what's important is that I'm just sharing my perspective. I'm sharing my experience, I'm sharing the meaning I'm making of that experience, and that might include my own questions, my own contradictions, my own inattentions, but in any case I'm conveying this, I'm sharing these, not to convince the other, but just to enable the other to feel, to understand, to sense what the world might look like from my perspective, what it might feel like to be me. I'm just offering this. I'm not expecting them to agree with me. I'm not expecting them to rally with me. I'm just expecting them to hear it, just to hear it. And in fact, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to hear their perspective, not to agree with it. I can fundamentally disagree, but still listen to their perspective, listen to what the world looks like from their perspective. That's field number 3, and often field number 3 is just a juxtaposition of several perspectives, not trying to reach a consensus, not trying to bring convergence, just allowing a diversity of perspective, each of them, relevant. What happens then when you set up field number 3, and it's something you can't control? It will happen by itself or it will not happen. But usually what happens is that having placed together all these perspectives, links start being made between what somebody is saying, what somebody else is saying. Suddenly, without knowing it, we're moving into field number 4, the field of generative dialogue. We move into a space where actually what the other is saying starts resonating with what I've been feeling. We start sensing the unity in the diversity of the perspective. We might pick up some convergences. It's not about consensus, but there might be some convergences about what it's like to be a human being, basically, in that experience. So, field number 4 is a field we enter into, but we can't control how we do that. In that field number 4, what we listen to really, because it starts resonating in us, we listen to the human experience of the other. We listen to what resonates with my own humanity in what I'm hearing the other talk about. Okay, so this is the 4 fields of dialogue. As a tool, as I said at the beginning, it's primarily a map. It's a map that can serve you in 2 ways. First way of using this map, it will help you design the conversations. Yeah? So as you're preparing a meeting, for example, you can set aside at the beginning some time which will be primarily field number 1. We will just talk nicely about how am I today, what's been happening, etc. And then slowly we can ensure that we design the questions, we design the next bit of the conversation to ensure we're in field number 3, to ensure we don't fall into field number 2 and get stuck in there, because field number 2 can be a place where we get stuck in. So if we're meeting to address a crisis we have to solve together or whatever, the danger of ending up in field number 2 is great. So what you can do is you can design the meeting so that you end up straight away in field number 3 after just saying hello and everything. The way to do this is to design the right questions to invite people to share their perspective of the crisis, their perspective of the problem, their perspective maybe of the opportunity we're here to discuss, their inner tensions, what are they struggling to reconcile, etc. This will help map out the territory out of which the solution will emerge. So that's the first way of using this map. The second way of using the map of the 4 fields of dialogue is when you're actually having a conversation and suddenly you're wondering, well, why are we talking about this like this? Or are we talking about what we need to talk about? Are we having a conversation that's generative? And with the map in mind, you might suddenly realize that, gosh, you're actually stuck in field number 1. You're just being polite with one another. You're not naming the issues. Okay. Or you might find yourself in field number 2. Gosh, we're stuck. We're just debating. We're in conflict. She's saying this. He's responding. They're coming in with their idea. Everybody's trying to assert the truth as if what they're holding is the truth. If you sense this is where you're stuck in, then you will know, okay, this isn't the place we need to remain in because this is sterile. let's move to film number 3, and from film number 3 to film number 4. And to move into film number 3, you can use the tool of generative speaking and really address your own experience, what you're feeling, what you're not understanding, and also what's crucial but you're not hearing the other talk about. Okay, so that's a tool to help you shift from 2 to 3. Okay, so here you've got a map. Have conversations, use the map, and see how it can help you. Enjoy!